Hello, friends, and welcome to the Thyroid 101 Masterclass. This is the second video in the series, and whether you've been diagnosed with hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, or you just suspect that your thyroid may be behind some or all of the awful symptoms that you've been suffering, you're in the right place. Because this is the right place to learn what's actually going on in your body and what you can do to heal your body, heal your thyroid, and get your life back. I'm Danielle Métis, scientist, health coach, and mom with Hashimoto's, and I've helped myself and literally thousands of people understand what's going on in their bodies and what they need to do to heal, to eliminate those symptoms for good, whether it's dropping that stubborn weight, getting your energy back, finally being able to get pregnant, or any of the other things that hypothyroidism can do to your life. This is the place to learn what you can do about it. The response to this workshop, this masterclass, has been phenomenal. Hundreds of you have watched this, you've left comments, you've downloaded the PDFs, and I thank you so much for your attention, and I really hope that you've gotten a lot out of it so far. If you've missed that first video, I suggest you go back. There's a link right here because we really laid the foundation of how your thyroid works and how it doesn't work and how that makes you feel and why it's so important to understand your symptoms. And there was a cool download there, so I suggest that you check that out too. And in that video, I started answering the maddening question and gave one possible answer to why do I still feel awful if my labs are normal? So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. In this video, I'm going to take you a little bit deeper. Again, we're going to address why do I feel so awful if my labs are normal. Yesterday, we talked about the feel so awful. And today, we're going to talk about whether your labs are really normal. We're going to be covering a lot of ground today, so I really suggest that you take notes. There's also a handout that you can download, which I think will summarize some information and make it really helpful for you. So grab that as well. So I'm guessing there's a reason why you're watching this video, and it's probably like similar reason that I've had and so many of my clients have had. You're probably sick and tired of having all these miserable symptoms that you suspect may or may not be related to your thyroid, and you just want to get your life back. Maybe it's that weight gain that just won't budge no matter what you do, or the depression or fatigue that the doctor says are either in your head or require going to a therapist. It could be anxiety, insomnia, skin and hair issues, digestive issues, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all these things, irregular periods, inability to get pregnant, infertility, miscarriages, all these things can be related to your thyroid. The good news is you do not need to live like that. You can get your life back. I know because I've had all those symptoms, and now I'm here to talk about it. I feel better now at 52 than I did in my 30s. The difference is that I've healed my thyroid. And the fact is there's never a better time to do this, right? Why should you suffer another day? So many of us go years with these symptoms and don't even know why or what's going on. But with the information you're going to get here, you can make a change. You can make it now. The new year is coming. Why not start this year fit and fantastic rather than spend another minute frustrated, fat, or fatigued, which is exactly what hypothyroidism makes us feel. So in this lesson, I'm going to dive into talking about thyroid labs, or whether your labs are really normal. What should those labs say? And most importantly, I'm going to give you the information you need to interpret them yourself, because you need to go into those doctors' offices armed with information so that you can be the best possible advocate for your health. So let's get started. Okay, we started with, let's go back. We started with part one. Why do I still feel awful if my labs are normal? I'm going to recap that briefly. And now we're here in part two, thyroid testing 101. So let's recap a little bit. Your thyroid, again, small gland right here, base of your throat, wraps around the windpipe. It's an endocrine gland, which means it releases hormones that go into the bloodstream to affect function elsewhere in the body. And that's really important because the doctors focus on the thyroid, this little tiny, walnut-shaped gland right here, and they don't look further afield. They don't look if it's, oh, your thyroid is okay. You're like, what about my joints and my stomach and my, fertility and my head and my hair and my gut? This is their job. But in fact, the thyroid makes its hormone, and it's actually whether or not the hormones are doing their job or whether you have enough hormone that's really going to determine how you feel. So we talked about one of the possible reasons why you may feel awful is that you don't get enough hormone, right? Like the thyroid one itself might be not producing enough T4, right? The thyroid itself could be damaged and not make that important initial hormone. It could be, so if you're making enough T4, doesn't mean it means you can't have enough of the T3. So first off the bat, don't have enough raw material. Number two, you could have enough raw material, but it's not being converted. Plenty of T4, not being converted to T3. If you don't have T3, you can't function, as we said yesterday, because T3 is the hormone that your body actually uses. maybe you have enough T3, but too much is being converted to reverse T3. Whoops. And all of these mean you don't have enough of the active hormone. So answer number one, you don't have enough hormone, whether that's because your body doesn't produce it, your medication, and we'll go into that tomorrow as well. So these are just some of the many bodily functions that are regulated by your thyroid via thyroid hormones. And this is just a few, but of course it means if you don't have enough thyroid hormone to speak to and to regulate all these functions, none of them are going to function well. And one thing we sort of say in my functional medicine program, sluggish thyroid, sluggish anything, because not enough hormone, not enough to get these other jobs done. So how do you know if you don't have enough thyroid hormone? Okay, this is what we're going to talk about today. How do we know? How do we actually investigate this? Number one, and I really want to emphasize this, your symptoms. So let's talk about what those symptoms are. So we talked about some of those yesterday. Here's just some of the top 10, at least from my Facebook group survey. But as you saw in yesterday's video, there's a laundry list of them in the scientific literature and the medical literature. And then also there must be 30 or 40 things that people have talked about, even more, that are related to hypothyroidism. So yesterday we talked about symptoms and how to track them. Super important. I put that here along with, how do we know we have a thyroid issue? Because sometimes the numbers aren't enough. The numbers can help confirm or help support, but the symptoms are the most important. I know your doctors have said otherwise. Symptoms are most important, and I will talk about that later why. So what else? Okay, of course, symptoms are most important, right? You wouldn't have gone to the doctor if you didn't have symptoms. Should be obvious to the doctors, but we want to back those up. Sometimes with lab reports will help. So let's talk about the lab tests. Right? Doctors say your labs are normal, right? Normal. Okay, let's talk about why they might not actually be normal, regardless of what the doctor says. All right, number one, TSH is the biomarker most commonly used to diagnose hypothyroidism. You probably just, the doctor tests that and he's like, oh, your labs are normal. He says your labs, he only tested one thing, right? Oops. So it's the most commonly used biomarker. Comes from the pituitary gland, right? And that's what the doctors use. Stimulates your thyroid to make more hormone. Many doctors act as though normal is obvious. Either you're above or below this number, right? Clearly there's a number. It's without any controversy. But over the past 35 years, different groups have recommended a whole range of different numbers. And in fact, from one lab to the other, from one doctor to another, from one practice to another, right? Here's just a little bit of that range, those changes. So 95, this 20 years follow-up in the UK said the upper limit should be about 2, right? Okay. 2002, this study in the United States. Okay, now it's 0.3 to 2.5. 2.2, again, also in the United States, like, okay, upper limit's 2.5. American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists, now we're at 3. Okay, and then the next published thing, the next sort of consensus document, 2012, 4.2. Why these went up? It literally doesn't say. So we don't know why they went up. They went up this much. So where do we get 4.2? No idea, but it gets better. So doctors today are all over the place regarding what TSH values indicate hypothyroidism. Those are just some of the recommended numbers. But a lot of doctors use standard lab reference ranges, which can differ from lab to lab. Quest will have one, LabCorp will have another. My husband and I were comparing results he got from Kaiser Permanente years ago versus one we got from LabQuest. The actual range is different. And that's because the range doesn't say who's healthy. The range says, here are the people who we think were healthy who came to our lab. Your health doesn't differ from lab to lab. And yet the doctors act as though that's totally reasonable. Some doctors insist that TSH has to be more than 10 to be considered hypothyroidism. Did you see that anywhere on that list? I don't know where they got that number. So that means, like, again, where did that come from? Who knows? But it means that there is not a clear standard. And even though your doctor's acting like in black and white, it's not. So for example, here's a chart, and you can download this below, the full chart. And we have TSH. Here's the standard lab reference range, I believe, from Quest Diagnostics, except I go to LabCorp, and it's actually 5.5 to 4.5. Here is what some doctors, some functional doctors recommend is the optimal reference range. And in fact, some say even it has to be below 1.5. But most importantly, it's where you feel best, because you are not a range, you are a person. So number one reason, first reason at least, and usually this is what most commonly people encounter. Oops, sorry. Your doctor's using the wrong range to decide what's normal. right? Like literally, that's not the right number. It literally is too low. Okay, let's talk about the next thing. Again, here we are looking at our hormones. We looked at this yesterday. Many doctors will only test TSH, which again comes from the pituitary gland, not the thyroid. Do you see the problem here? We're testing thyroid function, but testing a brain hormone can't give us a full picture of thyroid hormone. It tells you what the hypothalamus told the pituitary to tell the thyroid. Doesn't tell you what's going on here, what's actually happening with your thyroid. Right? There's, again, we can't necessarily get it from there. We need to know what the thyroid itself is producing or not producing. We need to test T4, the actual hormone made by the thyroid. Crazy idea, right? But it's not enough to just test T4. T4 is the inactive form. So that's fine. It tells us here's how much my thyroid is making, but again, it doesn't tell us the full function and the full availability of thyroid hormones in our body. T3 is the active form, right? Talked about T3 being made from T4. So yes, we want to know what the active ingredient is here, or the main ingredient is, but we actually also need to know how much is being converted in the body. And as I said yesterday, it's not uncommon for people with thyroid issues to have trouble with this conversion, which takes place primarily, some of it in the brain, heart, and so on, but primarily in your liver and your guts. That's where most of the hormone your body uses, and somewhat in the kidneys as well. So it's very common for people with chronic illness and thyroid problems to have difficulty doing this conversion. So we need to actually see how much this is being made. Even if on your thyroid medication, you might not have enough T3. So we need to measure both, but there's even more, another step. We need to not measure total, which is what if some doctors measure T4, they'll measure total. We need free, because hormones don't just go into the blood and run around. A lot of them are bound to a different protein. They're kind of transporter proteins. Sometimes the problem is we can't unbind those, and therefore we can have a lot of total, but not enough free, not enough to actually be used. So we need to measure the free, not the total. So maybe reason number one, doctor using the wrong ranges, right? We said, doctor's testing the wrong thing. If you look at the wrong place, you're not going to get the right answer, right? We actually need to test the thyroid. We need to test thyroid hormones, T4 and T3, not just TSH, and we need to test the free, the amount that's actually available for our body to use. So reason number two. Actually, that's, I guess, 2A and B. So here we go. We have TSH. Here you can see the ranges are different. And most importantly, it's the bottom end of the range. Doctors are like, maybe you don't have a lot, but you're fine. No, functional doctors are optimal ranges. You want more. This, my friends, like this, the difference here, big difference. This is 4 p-ball range. This is only 2. Half the range is smaller. You may notice in all of these, range of healthy is a lot smaller, a lot narrower. So this is what the doctors call calling normal. This is what most functional doctors would call normal. Okay, what do we got next? So my friends, we talked yesterday about also the body doesn't just produce T3 from T4, it also produces reverse T3. And there's some theory that that's to put a brake on your metabolism, and I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow. But it's only if this iodine gets chopped off do we have the good stuff. This, useless. Your body can't use RT3. So again, if you're making too much reverse T3, you're not getting enough T3 overall. And again, we're going to measure that as well, right? We want to measure that. We want to measure, this range is pretty much somewhat similar. This is a little bit higher, but a lot of the doctors won't even measure that. That's the one you often have to fight for. So let's talk more about, I didn't add that to my another reason why. When good thyroids go bad, there are many disorders that can affect your thyroid. And this is called autoimmune thyroiditis, or AITD, autoimmune thyroid disease. The most common are 2 autoimmune disorders called Hashimoto's thyroiditis and Graves' disease. If you have hypothyroidism, chances are, unless you've had surgery or a radiation treatment for Graves', it's because you have Hashimoto's. 90 to 95% of all hypothyroidism is due to Hashimoto's. And I'm going to keep moving my little face. Women are 5 to 10 times more likely to be diagnosed with a thyroid condition than men, especially an autoimmune condition. I can also say women are 7 times more likely to be diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. As you put these 2 together, and most of the people with Hashimoto's or Graves' disease are women. That's not entirely true. There are some men that have as well, but it's overwhelmingly women. And this is really important. It is estimated that millions of women are suffering from the symptoms of this and don't know. And they don't know because the doctors aren't doing the right test to tell them. So how do we know if we have autoimmunity? When you have Hashimoto's, again, the cause of overwhelming majority of hypothyroidism, you have antibodies to thyroglobulin, which is one of what they call a substrate that's used to make, like the lab bench, the table that's used to make thyroid hormone, or thyroid peroxidase, which is one of the enzymes. So if one or both of these are being attacked, you're not going to have enough thyroglobulin, you're not going to have enough thyroid peroxidase, so you're not going to make enough hormone. And the attack itself causes damage to the thyroid. See these like little like spots? These are the follicles where the thyroid hormone is made. When those get damaged, you literally don't have enough of the materials needed, and you literally don't have enough cells in the thyroid producing hormone. That leads to Hashimoto's. You could also have, I want to just mention Graves' disease. I mentioned that before. If you have antibodies to thyroid stimulating hormone receptor, you can have Graves' disease. And after radiation therapy or surgery or some kind of suppressive treatment, many people who had Graves' disease become hypothyroid. But I want to really emphasize that if this is why you're hypothyroid, you still have an autoimmune condition and it still needs to be treated as such. And we're going to talk about how to do that tomorrow. So again, we have the primary versus the standard lab reference ranges. And this is the full suite of tests you want to do if you have hypothyroidism, even if you have Graves', because you can develop Hashimoto's as well. You want to understand really what's going on. We need TSH, free T4, free T3, reverse T3. And both of these antibodies, you can be positive for one and negative for the other and miss it if you test the wrong one. And again, you want to compare them to optimal, not standard lab reference ranges. You can see these, you'd still be saying, oh, you're fine, you're normal. But the optimal will show you that you actually do have a problem and it's not all imagination. So again, let's review these. Doctors using the wrong ranges to decide what's normal. The doctors testing the wrong markers because we need to test the actual thyroid hormones to see if we have enough thyroid hormone. Seems obvious, not just TSH. We need to test free and not just total. The doctor's not testing reverse T3. So you might not be getting as much T4 because, not be getting enough active T3 because too much is being shunted into reverse T3. And the final one here, the doctor's not testing for antibodies to determine the cause. Now, some doctors may be like, well, why do you need to test? The treatment is the same, and that's not true. Their response is to say, they're just going to throw a pill at you, but your response is going to be different. So all of these mean that you don't have enough hormone. And tomorrow we'll talk about the last reason why you may not be fine, even though your labs are normal. But these are the main ones. The lab test, what the doctor's calling normal, or what the doctor's testing is just wrong. And it's just not enough to determine your true health. Oops, let's go back. So how do you know if you have a thyroid disorder? One, your symptoms. And I want to emphasize that because the labs are only supporting evidence, but it's also possible, and this we can't test, that you're not getting enough thyroid hormone into your cells, because all of these tests only test what's in your blood. They don't test what's inside the cell. The thyroid hormone, if you remember from yesterday, actually has to get inside the cell to work, actually has to affect those cells. So even if you have enough in the bloodstream, if for some reason it's not getting into your cells, you'll still have symptoms. So that's why it is so important to monitor your symptoms and alongside your lab tests. So that's how you know. Again, here is here's the reference ranges, the whole thing. You can print this out. You can, next time you go to your doctor, they will curse me to the heavens, but hey, I'm willing to take that. And you can get these tests. The other thing, the thing is you want to make sure you get all these tests. I usually, if you're like tweaking your medication, you might want to get it every 6 weeks. But once you feel like sort of you're actually in a better place, every 3 to 6 months, depending on what your doctor, the doctor you're working with. So thank you so much for that. And for this second video, and I hope you got a lot out of it. I know it's very technical. Feel free to watch it again, download that handout. If you have any questions about yesterday's video, you can watch that again. They'll all be available for the rest of the week or for till the beginning of next week. Now, at this point, people often have a number of questions, right? I don't expect you to have all the answers at this point, to absorb all of that all at once. But there's a number of different questions that people have about these thyroid tests and about what to do next. And here are a couple of big ones. One, how do I get my doctor to do these tests, right? Maybe you've gone there and you've tried to advocate and the doctor refuses. Well, I can't make any promises here, but here are some things that people have found have been successful. One, just say, hey, doc, I want to understand more. I want to understand what's going on. Can we please do these tests so I can get more data? So we can get more data and get a fuller picture. But like, that seems pretty reasonable. I want more data. I want to get a fuller picture. So start with that. The doctor says, this is my favorite. Oh, we shouldn't waste the insurance company's money. Remind them, I pay the insurance company. The insurance company works for me. It's not wasting their money. I paid for these services. If the doctor refuses, flat out refuses, say, okay, I want it noted. Please put in my records now that I asked for these tests, and you refused because I want a better picture. I'm not convinced that we have gathered all the information, and you refuse to give me the tests. A lot of times doctors will do it then because they are trying to cover their asses. We're playing hardball, friends, I know, but it's your health and your life, not the doctor's. And it's not your responsibility to save the insurance company money. It's the doctor's responsibility to take care of you. Third thing, my friend, if your doctor still refuses, is stubborn, rude, dismissive, patronizing, condescending, you need a new doctor. You need a new doctor because it is unacceptably treated that way. If you went to a mechanic knowing like your brakes were squeaking or were failing, and they're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to fix it, you'd go find another mechanic because that's life or death. So is this. So is this. It's not just, oh, I'm tired. Oh, my hair doesn't look great. Having untreated hypothyroidism dramatically, even subclinical, dramatically increases your risk of heart disease, diabetes, dementia, stroke, all of these things over the long run. So my friends, it's so important that we actually heal. And you know what? Our quality of life matters. So you may need to find another doctor. If you can't go to another doctor, you're in the VA, you're in the military, you're restricted to one doctor, you can, or you're in a rural area, not a lot of doctors, you can do these tests on your own. You can order them online. You can Google home thyroid lab tests. A number of different companies do them. Everlywell, Thorne. One of the ones I saw recently, I have not tried this one, Let's Get Checked. The reason why I like it is they have a reasonable price. It's $119 for 5 of those 6 tests. They do everything but reverse T3. And I think right now they have a 30% off sale if you order 2 tests. I have not tried them. I just recently saw them, but you can Google, you can Google home thyroid lab tests to find more. So now I want to tell you about the next video I've got in the last masterclass. This is the one that brings it all home, that wraps it all up. Why do I still have labs? Why do I still have symptoms? My labs are normal. And what can I do about it? We're going to discuss just 2 more of the reasons why you might still have symptoms, and then bring it all together and say, and what do I do? Tomorrow, I'm going to go into medication options. Some people will need it, some people won't, but what are the various options and what do we need to do beyond medication? So you're not going to want to miss that one. I think it's going to be your favorite one in the series. It's certainly my favorite one to make and to talk about because it's all about solving the problems. I know I just laid out a whole bunch of problems. We are going to come up with solutions tomorrow. I'm not going to leave you hanging. So you're going to get the links to video number 3 tomorrow in your inbox. In the meantime, feel free to watch this one again, the previous one, get all the downloads. And also, friends, if you've learned something, please share it. Let people in your life know that you're learning something. Often you find support that way. If there are people you know online, other friends who have this problem, who you think would benefit, please share the information with them. Feel free to forward the emails. Let them know about this. They can come to my website and register for this. They should register so they also get the emails and the other information. But it's so much easier to go through this when you have somebody else who understands. The community that I've built around this has been phenomenal. It's supporting each other and supporting me as well. I have this as well. And let me tell you, it's so much easier when you have a group to go through this and who understands what you're dealing with. So right now, my friends, what I'd like to do though, is I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. But so many people responded yesterday on social media and here in the comments. Please let me know what you think. What did you learn from this? Have you had this experience with doctors? And most importantly, what are you going to do next? What's your next step? Because this information is only valuable if you act on it. Not saying you have to do it tomorrow, but just think about it. What do you think you're going to do differently now that you have that info? So check it out. Give me answers in the comments, share this information, and I will see you in the next video.